Thank you very much for allowing me to come and share my thoughts with you. And certainly there are many people here who have so much more to say and more probably technical testimony for you. But I want to just share a couple of things that I feel very strong about. First of all, thank you. My own assemblyman is here to listen to me, so I appreciate that. And my sister in government is also here, Joan. So both of them know what I think, but Assemblyman, you haven't heard me yet, so thank you for allowing me to share. I just want to start off by saying I'm in a total panic about the Pacific Street Library and what is going to happen, and the fact that the officials at the BPL have put that on an agenda that is related to selling property. So I begin by sharing that with you. And I serve communities that, I think off the top of my head, include about nine or 10 library branches. Some of them very small, some of them a little bit larger, but all of them are very heavily utilized, especially by young people. These are safe havens. They provide an enormous amount of after-school availability, and I don't, not so much necessarily official formal programming, but when you go into any of the branches that I represent, and I've been in any number of times, each of them, you will find that there's like crowds of young people, and just by virtue of the fact that they're at the library, I'm assuming that something positive can happen, that they are not out on the streets. And I'm always, and for the Central Library in particular, it is an amazing experience to see the young people using that library in particular, but all of them. And so each of those communities that have a library, no matter how small it is, these libraries are part of the educational system. So I have really referred to libraries as cultural educational institutions. And the reason that I say that is because in many instances, some of the schools that are near libraries don't have an efficient library. Some of the schools' libraries are in abominable conditions. So the library then becomes an opportunity for young people to have actually an extended educational opportunity that complements what the school does. And so it's part of the larger education system. So I just wanted to make those comments there, sort of gets away from my formal written comments, but I wanted to share that with you. Now, our libraries are a public trust. They offer access to knowledge and information. They are a way for people to learn about jobs, our government, and their rights and their responsibilities. And they are a path to citizenship for many, many people. Our children need libraries, as I have said. And there was a recent study by the Pew Research Center, which did an analysis of what young people, school children, wanted from their libraries. And the number one answer was books. So while we tout the technology, and everybody except a few of us are are born into technology. They wear technology. I don't know how they do it, but this is where people are these days. They talk to each other through technology and this and this. But there are many still communities and still families and still children who value the experience that they can only get through books. And so I will forever respect the fact that we should offer our next generations an opportunity to enjoy what we enjoyed as people being educated in our society, access to books. So the concept to me for selling this valuable property, this valuable public institution, to me is very, very troubling, and I think it's the wrong thing for us to be thinking about in this era. Now, in my district, I think I have. And I don't know your district. You can argue with me, and that's just fine. But I think I have one of the most gentrifying areas in our city is in my district, and my assemblyman can attest to it. Neither of us could afford to come to my district now and find a place where we could afford to live on our salary, his or mine. So I just want to put that. So if our children who happen to still be able to live in that community, the one thing that we should not be taking away from them is access to their library. Selling by us as government officials, coming up with a plan to sell the last completely publicly accessible or completely an institution that is completely accessible to everyone in the community, no matter their income, no matter their educational access, no matter what school they go to. The library is for all of us, and that should remain an asset that we hold on to in this city. And certainly, why these two particular branches, Brooklyn Heights and Pacific Street, why those? And you know, the CEO just informed us, these are highly valuable properties. So we're looking at these branches for the money that they can generate, and we want to transfer that public asset to a private developer. Now, in the case of the Pacific Street, let me just say this to you, that they intend to raise $10 million. That's what we've been told. But they need to spend $11 million in order to build out the new library. And of course, so that doesn't make sense to me. So we're not really gaining anything. And so and in order to get to the new library, we're asking people, and I'm seeing so many new young families in that area, Borum Hill, the northern part of Park Slope. They would now be required to cross. I don't know if you've been to Brooklyn. You've ever been to
I have, Senator.
You know where the Barclay place is.
I do.
If you can imagine what traffic looks like at Atlantic, Pacific, and Flatbush, any hour during the day, the cars, the vehicles never stop because there's a light directing traffic in one way or another at all times of day. You would not want to take your baby in a stroller, your 2-year-old toddler, across that street to get to a library that is not in your community because you have lost your neighborhood library. So there are many reasons why, as I said, as I began this with that, I'm in a panic because we cannot afford to lose Pacific Street. It's not something that is going to yield us essentially financial benefit. It's going to take away a neighborhood library. And quite frankly, we don't see where that, and you have said, and I agree with you, that there needs to be a larger plan. We need to have some indication that the library is coming to you and to us. Now, obviously, it's difficult for me because I'm a 3 or 4 or 5 way minority now with the IDCs and all of the other people. But I can say this. I work very closely with the chair of there's a subcommittee on libraries in the Senate. I work very closely with the Republican chair. We can do a lot more for our libraries. We should do a lot more. And I think that coming up with a plan should include us as well as our colleagues in the City Council. And furthermore, I'm hopeful that as you look at how the library system works, you will begin to think about who appoints people to the library boards. And I think that certainly we don't want to see real estate moguls on library boards. It is inappropriate for them. If this is an indication that we have a conflict of interest here. We have too many people who are looking at libraries for the real estate value as opposed to all the values that I just talked about.
Hear, hear, Senator.
And so maybe you can think about doing something about that.
Well, Senator, I want to thank you for your eloquent testimony. If you hadn't grabbed me outside of City Hall at a rally, this hearing probably would have never taken place. So I thank you for your great advocacy.
Thank you very much.
Senator, if you could just yield for before you dash off. Thank you.
My colleague is here.
Yes, I know. I saw her, and another colleague, another city council member is sitting in the back as well. But I thought before you dash off, maybe some of the rest of us might like to chime in with something or other. Possible, right? No, so I just wanted to thank you for bringing up the whole concern of school libraries, because that's what I did for years. And recently I've been working with PS 38, which is an elementary school which is the closest located school to the Carnegie branch, right, the Pacific Street branch.
Yes.
And there is a group of teachers and parents working as best they can with no money to restore that library so that it has the materials that kids really need and want and need to use. But constantly they are telling these children, well, you just have to go cross 4th Avenue, that one, not easy street, but one street to get to the library. And if we don't have it here in our library, which closes at 3 o'clock when school ends, which is not open during the summer, it is not open on school holidays, et cetera, go to that branch because they will be able to help you.
Yes.
And they have trained librarians. The person in the position right now is a wonderful school teacher, but does not have the librarian training that I know is so valuable. So that's a direct example. If those kids have to go across all of those avenues that they mentioned to go to this brand new branch, which was never conceived as being a regular general circulation branch, but a fine arts library, if you will, to service the cultural institutions.
Absolutely.
It wasn't planned to do that job.
Yes.
So I was really glad you brought that up because I had omitted it in my testimony. So I thank you for being a partner. And as I said, I think we in Brooklyn have to work on our other elected officials, not the city and state and the council, who's done so well by our libraries, but also by others as well, because there's funding that goes around, and we may not have been as aggressive in advocating for it as we might be in the future.
Absolutely. And as a
Thank you.
delegation, I think we can do a much better
I
job.
believe that is true.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator, for your testimony. I know you had in your testimony stated this sell to save theme or mentality by this administration is something that we should try to rid ourselves of. And obviously, I detest it, whether it's the selling of private property or public property for housing or for as it relates to our schools. I have two quick questions. You said you had a meeting to discuss this plan of this new library, this new cultural library. Was there ever the issue of how they would assist in providing for, I guess, a gateway for young people coming off of Pacific Street and crossing over Atlantic Avenue and Flatbush Avenue? I know we had brought this up in other instances as it relates to adjacent development. Has there ever been a plan to assist in that efforts? And then two, local schools. Has the developer ever stressed the need to help complement the libraries at these local schools so that there is a cohesive relationship between the libraries that do exist and what they provide or don't provide at the present time, and what this library will provide or won't provide?
Exactly. Thank you for that question. One of the issues, obviously, is getting people across those. I guess it's probably one of the busiest intersections in the nation. As a matter of fact, the day that I met with the CEO and the officials at BPL, there was a man who was killed at that intersection that same day. And so, and this is a very serious issue. And we've tried to address that, but that gets addressed with DOT and others. So that's not the BPL is not offering us any, necessary assistance with that. The second thing that I want to make very clear, I have not. My position is not that I oppose the new library. I'm happy that's been in the plans for many years. So that's not what we're talking about. What we are talking about is the fact that Pacific Street Branch, it's a specialized library that's children oriented. It is used by the community. It has a very active community involvement in that library. Serves lots of seniors who come there with their rolling equipment there and wheelchairs, but it's not wheelchair accessible, and we have to take care of that. But in addition, that library serves a very large community of public housing residents, Gowanus, Wyckoff, and Warren. So the potential, even if at this moment they are not, it's going to be, in my estimation, in the very near future, in addition to Borum Hill, we're going to have an expanded need for that library because the community is now expanded quite dramatically. And so to say that we are now going to replace Pacific with the proposed new library is just not the reality. And so there's no, I could never agree to support moving Pacific Street and selling that building. It is just not, it is not appropriate, and it's not workable, and it's certainly not fair to the people who depend on that library on the western side of Flatbush Avenue at this time.
Thank you, Senator.
Or ever.
Thank you, Senator.